4 o'clock news on Oklahoma's News 4.
Right now at 4, inside the storm. New video as a twister bears down on a crowded convenience store.
Plus, destroyed by fast-moving flames. What's next for one of the staples in historic downtown Guthrie?
I'm trying to keep a smile on, but it's tough.
And an Oklahoma man becomes the victim of a crime straight out of the Old West. Now the effort underway to catch his cattle. That's where we start at 4 o'clock. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Eli Roberts.
And I'm Jolene Cheney. A herd of cattle stolen from a livestock owner near Watonga. Now the Department of Agriculture is putting neighboring states on alert in case they're resold.
News 4's Kelly Rolliard spoke to the owner today, who now has some choice words for whoever is responsible for all of it.
Jerry Pierce says he pulled up here to his land and noticed right away over 20 head of cattle were gone. That's about $25,000 right out of his pocket.
It's just been a sad ordeal, and it's very frustrating.
He says it's a tough job managing his 15 cattle farms. He feels like someone stole his livelihood.
Trying to keep my smile on, but it's tough.
All of Pierce's cattle have ear tags like this one with different numbers on them. They're also branded JP on the left hip.
Now, I love my cattle, and I hate to see it coming to this. In farming, timing is money. Getting the crop in the ground, you have to plan for all this stuff and prepare. And then you get all the way down to selling them, and then they're gone. He says this land has been passed down in his family for many years, and they've never had this issue. But now they'll be looking into tightening security. What do? We've branded, we've tagged, you check them, you look for your fences, you don't see any out, there's no tracks in the road, so you don't suspect they're gone until you count. However, Pierce says he's not worried. It's like anyone that has a loss, you deal with it and go on. He believes karma will catch up to the thieves. Go ahead, steal all you want. You're only cheating yourself. That's going to come back to you in the end, and I firmly believe that. In Blaine County, Kelly Rolliard, Oklahoma's News 4.
And if you know something about that stolen cattle, you're asked to call the Blaine County Sheriff.
Coming up at 5, we're going to tell you why the Department of Agriculture says thefts like this usually increase around this time of year.
Now, first weather from the Forewarned Storm Team.
Hey, did I ever tell you guys that late February and March are the windiest times of year in Oklahoma?
Did you have to tell us that? Maybe Eli.
I don't think I had to tell you that,
He'll
did I?
figure it out this year.
I did not have to tell you that. How about Saturday, right? Wow, and pretty breezy out there today as well, but the temperatures are oh so nice. Look at this here on a Monday, mostly sunny skies, and our temperatures, they are up there. We deserve these temperatures in the lower to middle 60s across most of Oklahoma, even approaching 70 right now in the Red River Valley, but all good things must come to an end, and the end is in sight with Arctic air now in Kansas, not very far away. Temperatures in the lower teens and high single digits. Here's your Monday evening, not a problem, 49 at 10 o'clock. Guys, spring-like weather now, but several cold blasts are coming, including ice and snow and Arctic air. I have all those details coming up.
We know you'll be there to tell us about it. Mike, thank you. An Oklahoma community is trying to move forward after a devastating fire.
2 buildings in historic downtown Guthrie were destroyed on Saturday. A flower shop, along with the double stop fiddle shop, have been reduced to ashes. A nearby tax office also destroyed. Legendary musician Byron Berlin, who owns the Double Stop Fiddle Shop, is mourning the loss of priceless mementos and instruments he's acquired over the decades.
They all have personalities and souls to them, and I knew them all. And I just hated to think they died that death like that.
Byron says he's been overwhelmed, of course, by the outpouring of support he's received. He also hopes to reopen somewhere else. Firefighters still don't know what caused that fire, but they say it doesn't look like it was intentionally set.
It's time for Crime Watch now, and we are getting more details about a deadly shooting in southwest Oklahoma City. Those details are now coming to light. We brought it to you as breaking news last night at 10. Investigators now say Shane Bonnets was found dead near Southwest 35th and Western. According to police, Bonnets got into an argument with this man, Gerald Gwynn. Authorities say things got heated and Gwynn shot Bonnets. Gwynn was arrested, but not for the shooting. He's facing charges for having a gun after having a previous felony conviction. You can't do that. It will be up to the district attorney to decide whether Gwynn should be charged for allegedly shooting Bonnets. The criminal case against a former Yukon teacher is now moving forward.
She's accused of having an inappropriate relationship with an underage student. New court documents show Hunter Day has waived her right to a jury trial. She's now scheduled to enter a plea in April and learn her sentence then. Prosecutors say Day sent nude photos and inappropriate text messages to one of her teenage students. Day was then arrested at her home in Yukon back in 2017 during an undercover sting. Town leaders in Jones will meet tonight.
And top on their agenda, a controversial medical marijuana ordinance. News 4 first told you about this earlier this month. That ordinance would require those with a medical marijuana card to register with the town and to pay a fee. The city now says it's working to eliminate those rules. An amendment will be presented to town trustees tonight, but it will not be voted on until next month's regularly scheduled meeting. We're going to let you know what happens at that meeting. Turning to national news now, where President Trump is on his way to Vietnam for his summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. This will be their second face-to-face meeting on denuclearization. The first was last June in Singapore.
All this comes as the president's former attorney prepares for potentially heated testimony on Capitol Hill. We get more from Blaine Alexander.
President Trump headed for Vietnam, meeting with North Korea's Kim Jong-un for round 2 of denuclearization talks.
I think we'll have a very tremendous summit. We want denuclearization.
The president sounding optimistic despite U.S. intelligence officials saying there have been no concrete steps from North Korea to scale back its nuclear weapons program since the first summit last June, which President Trump called a success.
He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. We fell in love.
As the president prepares for his talks in Vietnam, back in Washington, his former attorney and fixer, Michael Cohen, gearing up for talks of his own. 3 days of Capitol Hill testimony, both private and public.
I think Michael Cohen poses a far greater, definitely reputational risk to the president than even Robert Mueller does right now, given all of the information he has about the president.
Last year, Cohen pleaded guilty to campaign finance violations and lying to Congress about a scrapped Trump Tower project in Russia. His testimony coming as special counsel Robert Mueller is expected any day to hand over the findings of his investigation to Attorney General William Barr, raising questions about what Congress might do to make that report public.
We'll be able to go to the courts as well as to subpoena Mueller to testify, as well as to subpoena the administration for materials that it is withholding.
The president says he will let his newly appointed Attorney General decide how or if he will release that report. And Cohen will testify during closed session tomorrow, but his public testimony comes Wednesday before the House Oversight Committee. In Washington, Blaine Alexander, Oklahoma's News 4.
And there you have it. Now it's time to check in with Kevin Ogle in the Sky Center.
Well, Eli, the United States will impose new sanctions on Venezuela amid unrest in that country. Vice President Mike Pence made the announcement today in Colombia. All of this comes after the U.S. and many countries have withdrawn support for Venezuela's elected president, Nicolas Maduro. Pence called Maduro's regime corrupt and illegitimate.
But what brings us together today is the recognition by all the nations gathered here that Nicolas Maduro is a usurper with no legitimate claim to power. And Nicolas Maduro must go.
Pence also announced measures to support opposition leader Juan Guaido. Those include an additional $56 million in aid support. The NFL is once again weighing in on the criminal case surrounding New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft. The league now says it will handle it as if it were any other issue under the league's policy. Kraft has been charged with soliciting a prostitute in Florida. His arrest last week came as part of a crackdown on sex trafficking. The NFL says it's working to understand all of the facts surrounding the case and will take appropriate action as needed. R&B star R. Kelly was back in a Chicago courtroom today where his attorney entered not guilty pleas on the singer's behalf. The singer's charged with 10 counts of aggravated sexual abuse. Prosecutors say 3 of the victims were underage. R. Kelly spent the weekend in jail, showed up at this morning's hearing wearing an orange jail jumpsuit. He denied any wrongdoing. His attorney says he's confident the singer will be cleared of the charges. That's all from the Sky Center. Jolene and Eli, back to you.
Thank you, Kevin. Time now to take a look at what's hot on the web. Cleanup underway after a round of severe weather in the south. This is including tornadoes.
Today we are seeing the moment that one of those twisters hit a store on Saturday. All of this happening in Mississippi. People were inside that store. You are looking at cell phone video from inside a convenience store. The winds were so strong that they nearly ripped off the doors. Customers then started running for cover. Moments later, the power goes out.
Now to what was a scary and shocking scene at a high school wrestling tournament.
And before we show you this video, we want to let you know it might be a little hard to watch. As the final matches were taking place, a teenager, there he is, crashes right onto the gym floor. It turns out he fell through a skylight above. The incident brought the entire gym to a standstill. It's not clear just how bad that teen's injuries were or what he was doing up on the roof. The sheriff's office arrested him on one charge of trespassing.
And as the saying goes, love is in the air.
Even at the supermarket, the one-of-a-kind ceremony that stopped shoppers in their tracks.
Valentine's Day's over.
Yeah.
Sounds like a crazy idea.
But it's paying off, an unlikely rehab tool for patients recovering from stroke. Why the developer was so inspired to start this program.
And enjoy this brief taste of spring because it's not going to last for long. We're going to tell you when Arctic Air arrives and who's going to see some ice.
You're watching the 4 o'clock news on Oklahoma's News 4 with Jolene Cheney, Eli Roberts, and Mike Morgan. Oklahoma's News 4, looking out for you.
In this afternoon's health check, we already know boxing can be a good form of cardio.
And now doctors say it could also be good for those who are recovering from a stroke. A hospital in Texas has added boxing to its rehab regime. It allows patients recovering from things like a stroke or a traumatic brain injury to not only work out their body, but also their mind. The coach who created adaptive boxing did so as a result of her own struggles to bounce back from a brain injury. It's tough. She says she's already seen a big change in patients going through the program.
When I call for something visually or auditory, they go through their memory processes of thinking, reasoning, comprehension, and applying action with that punch.
One of the patients participating in active boxing says the classes have helped him get back to work.
Also in Health Check, the United States is seeing the worst measles outbreak in recent years. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Since January 1st, there have been 159 confirmed cases in 10 states, including neighboring Colorado and Texas. So far, there have been no cases here in Oklahoma. Although the measles is highly contagious, the CDC says a 2-dose vaccine is 97% effective against the virus.
Forewarn Weather is sponsored by Newcastle Casino.